Hello and welcome to our webinar, How Top Mortgage Lenders Convert More with Video Mortgage Calculators. It's our pleasure to have you with us today, and we look forward to an informative and engaging discussion. My name is Jeff Billier, and I lead the Strategy and Corporate Development Group here at BlueRush, and your MC for today's webinar. We'll begin our presentation shortly, but before we start, I wanted to mention the Q&A portion of our webinar. We will in fact be having a Q&A session at the end of our presentation. There is a panel to your right where you can submit questions for our presenters. Feel free to ask anything that comes to mind from the content discussed today. Now I'd like to introduce you to our two main presenters and subject matter experts. Our first presenter is Ted Mercer and is the VP of Sales at BlueRush. Ted has worked in sales and sales management for over 10 years with a background in financial services, including roles at Morgan Stanley and KPMG. At BlueRush, Ted leads the market development of interactive personalized video, working with financial organizations to create a richer and more engaging digital experience. Our second presenter is Carrie Chitsey-Wells, co-founder and COO of One Touch Video Chat. Since founding one of the first mobile companies in the US in 2008, she is known in the industry as a leader in digital mobile innovation. Named top 50 mobile executives in the US, top 100 female founders, and top 40 marketing execs in the US. She hosts a podcast, The Execution Innovation, and is published in many magazines and online resources. Now, let's begin our presentation. Ted, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to dive right in here. Customer expectations have transformed how mortgage lenders engage with their customers. I'm sure you've all seen these ideas, but I will go through them a little bit each. From the old model of a captive audience, the new reality is a vastly reduced attention span. Customers want bite-sized content. They don't want essay-length content anymore. From the old model of customers freely exchanging data with you on their website, the new reality is an increased data sharing sensitivity. I'm going to show you today, and we can talk further, about how we break that social contract so people share data with you that they otherwise might not. From the old model, where marketers could personalize by demographic group, the new reality is customers demand immediate one-on-one personalization of communications. And finally, from the old model, where brands pushed collateral to customers in a one-way conversation, the new reality is an expectation of responsive interaction. Customers don't want to wait for sales guy to get into the office next day. They want a response as soon as they ask a question. Forrester said in 2016 that 72% of businesses say improving customer experience is their top priority. From this 2015 PwC study, we can see that rate is no longer the key driver in mortgages. Customer experience will win more and more. In fact, experience is only 4% behind the interest rate for mortgages, and the importance of rate is declining year over year. Next slide, please. We like to think that millennials do everything online, and they do. The difficult part is that 68% have actually stopped the buying process because of bad customer service or an experience that they didn't like. Interestingly, the next generation, Gen Z, prefer face-to-face interactions over text. So the conclusion from this slide is that despite wanting digital tools throughout the process, the primary buyers of new mortgages in the US, millennials and Gen Z, still want a humanized experience during the mortgage buying process. These leading mortgage companies have managed rising customer expectations, leaky purchase funnels, and have grown market share by using smart digital strategies. Rocket Mortgage, the largest mortgage lender in America now, uses a savvy digital marketing strategy and a streamlined, fully digital application process. Their goal is to predict the customer's needs and make the process as easy as possible. Caliber Home Loans, City Mortgage, and Alliant Credit Union use excellent online calculators to increase conversion rates and manage customer churn. Speaking of calculators, there are those that convert and there are those that don't. If we look on the left of this screen, this is an example of calculators that don't convert. 4 points. There's static data entry fields. There's limited explanation of inputs and outputs. There's no personalization or educational assistance on the page, and it lacks a CTA or direction to move to next steps. This doesn't encourage conversion. On the right-hand side of the page, we have a calculator that does encourage conversion. 4 points. It has entry fields that provide additional education. It has interactivity, and the video retains engagement of the viewer. The output is personalized to the prospect, and it has a very clear, in red, CTA, act now. This is the type of calculator that does build conversion. And I will say that the one on the right is the one that we built. Next slide. Thank you. Interactive personalized video is the next best investment for digital leaders and those who want to be digital leaders. Personalization drives a 44% longer viewer time when a video is personalized. Interactivity within the video allows the viewer to choose their own adventure, further personalizing an innovative digital experience. I believe it's a certain age group that actually remembers Choose Your Own Adventure books. Not too old and not too young, but if you remember them, then you'll know what I'm talking about. This results in a 74% lift in click-through rate and a 46% lift in purchase intent, according to Forrester. The interactive personalized experience enhances customer engagement, improves the customer experience, and increases mortgage revenue. So why is interactive video so powerful for mortgage buyers? I talked earlier about the new reality of an expectation of immediate response. Interactive video delivers that immediacy. It explains complex mortgage products in a simple fashion. You'll see a case study later on in this presentation that talks about that. And the personalization makes the content both relevant and memorable. Why is interactive video so powerful for mortgage lenders? Interactive personalized video doesn't change the lender's process. It is simply added in to enhance that existing process. The key, right in the middle of the page here, is that it accelerates the buyer journey to move mortgage buyers through the process as fast as possible, which is really what we want. And a small sales pitch, BlueRush is the only company that allows mortgage lenders to send personally identifiable information, PII, in the video. This is possible because we can install the interactive personalized video behind the mortgage lender's firewall, so that the data in the video is as safe as the data the bank holds. And if this sounds difficult to do, ask some questions afterwards or get in touch and we can explain how that works. 2 quick case studies. Allstate Insurance. They were struggling with low conversion rates from moving customers from quote to fulfillment in the follow-up email. We built an video to go out in the email that explains the process to the customer. The result was a 96% email open rate and a 10% increase in conversion. On the right-hand side, I mentioned a minute ago that I was going to talk about explaining a complex product. Well, that's what Manulife was struggling with. They had a new mortgage called the Manulife One mortgage. And without going into details of the complexity of it, it was not your standard mortgage. So they asked us to build an video that explained how that new mortgage product would help each person individually. This was one of the most successful online campaigns that was run in the year that we created this. It resulted in a 154% increase in click-through rate and a 44% increase in mortgage sales for that year. So we're going to launch an actual example of the video right now. Bear with us while we bring it up on screen. Excellent. So, interactive mortgage expert. Sorry. Okay. So as we start this off, the interactive mortgage expert. This is going to be explain what the mortgage payment is and the personalized options that are available. So if we start, we enter in a nice mortgage amount, $250,000, $400,000. Depends what city you're in, I guess, to the amount of the mortgage. And we go next. We can choose an option, and these would be exactly as your lending organization had. We'll choose 5-year fixed. Years of amortization, we'll click next. Is it a priority to pay your mortgage off sooner? We'll click yes. And then, do you get paid at regular intervals? Yes. So as you can see, this is the calculator that I showed you earlier on in the presentation, and it explains what your monthly payment is. It has a CTA to act now. It explains the assumptions that were used. Nothing too crazy on this. It's just a very good looking calculator. But on the right-hand side, you'll see a watch your personalized mortgage video. So we're going to run through this. We're going to play the video. It's 1.5 minutes long, and I'll encourage you to consider a couple aspects of it. First of all, the personalization. Each of the numbers that you see on the screen here are going to be in that video immediately rendered. And secondly, there's an educational component that explains the difference between biweekly and monthly mortgage payments. That confuses a lot of people. And finally, there'll be some interactivity right at the very end that brings your CTA into the end of video. So let's, without further ado, play the video.
Hi, let's review your mortgage numbers and options. On a mortgage of this amount, with a 5 years fixed term, and the current interest rate seen here, you will pay this amount per month. This is based on an amortization period of 25 years. Since you told us your goal is to pay off your mortgage as quickly as possible, let's look at how you can achieve that. Different payment options can have a significant impact on how quickly your mortgage gets paid off. In your case, the accelerated biweekly option reduces the amortization period by 3 years, and you will save this much in interest versus standard monthly payments. To understand how accelerated biweekly works, let's start with the standard monthly payment. Now, if you divide that amount in half and make 2 payments per month, you would be making 24 payments yearly. This is called semi-monthly. Accelerated bi-weekly means you will take that same amount, but make payments every 2 weeks instead of twice per month. Because there are 52 weeks in a year, by paying every 2 weeks, you actually make 26 payments annually, versus 24 payments if you're just paying twice per month. In this way, you're actually making 2 extra bi-weekly payments annually. That's the equivalent of 1 additional monthly payment each year. By slightly accelerating your payments, you reduce your principal amount faster, resulting in big savings.
So this is the end screen of the video that the customer is presented with, and this can obviously be changed around. They can recalculate, they can watch again, or act now, which would be a apply, or we have chat with a video mortgage advisor and connect now. At this point, I'm going to hand over to Carrie to continue the webinar. That screen that you just saw was an example of that video mortgage advisor popping up on the screen.
Great. Thanks, Ted. I appreciate it. So I'm going to, once you're spending your marketing dollars, you're getting folks to come to your website. It's really putting that live face behind the mortgage calculator. So obviously mortgage is one of the most highly competitive loan products, highest margin, and the first person that can get to the customer typically wins or has a better first impression than others, especially in the competitive markets around the country. So being able to have that first impression to, after somebody has instantly watched the video, to be able to instantly be authentic, to be able to connect, increases the conversion rate significantly. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. So video mortgage advisors are key in multiple areas of the mortgage process. But backing into a little bit, last year, looking at the average home buyer was 44 years old. And there was a large amount, over 50% of the new home purchases coming from under 36-year-old demographic. So the millennials are buying houses, the Gen X's are still shopping rates, and Gen Z's before long will be buying. And the reason this is so important is the fact that, for the majority of that demographic, this is their first home. They've never been through that mortgage process before. Maybe they've got advice from folks at work, from mom or dad, but they've never actually had to sign on the dotted line for a home before. And given that the average time in the home buying process is 4.2 months, with 66% of these folks being new-time home buyers on millennials, there's a lot of things that happen in the mortgage process. I mean, nobody wins unless the loan closes, right? The consumer, the home buyer doesn't win, the real estate agent doesn't win, and the mortgage company doesn't win. And so regardless if they go with you after that initial pre-qual phase, there's still all this hand-holding that needs to happen. So in competitive markets where it may take you 2 or 3 different homes and offers to actually get a house, this is a lot of what's driving millennials to consider renting. 66% consider going back to renting during that process. So what better way during that process to be able to have your loan officers now be video mortgage advisors and have that face-to-face relationship? Most banks, most credit unions, mortgage companies, I know Ted talked, about Rocket Mortgage earlier and some others, they've all gone to a centralized environment. So the days of going in and sitting down with, the loan officer just doesn't happen anymore. But all demographics want to have a face behind who they're talking with and build those personalized relationships. So why is the first contact so critical? 62% of buyers contact 2 or more lenders. On average, most are contacting 3+. Going back to the slide previously, rate is not the number one, decision-making criteria. 82% of folks are getting pre-approved, especially when competitive markets where you have to attach an approval to your offer. And 90% use the same lender that they got the pre-qual from, as assuming that there's a relationship built and the customer experience is good up front. So it's not only just about, we all love technology regardless of demographics. We want to be able to submit our applications, our paperwork, everything online. But we want to know that the person on the other end is giving us guidance. They're not just a paper pusher. We want to know that they have our back and that they're hand-holding us through the process. And by doing that, if you're looking at that first contact and why it's critical and the call to action that we've shown here today with the video mortgage advisor, if I'm going to buy a home and I'm talking to 3 different folks and I fill out a form online, I fill out a traditional, that bad left side calculator, and you're calling me back a day, 2 days later, your loan officers are, or, I'm clicking to call somebody on a 1-800 number, that's kind of old school thinking, in the sense of, if I'm comparing as a home buyer 2 people I've talked to via email or on the phone to someone that I've actually videoed with, I'm going to be able to tell you the mortgage advisor that I videoed with, I'm going to be able to tell you what they look like, what company they work for. I may be able even to tell you some personal information about them. They're going to be able to look at me and ask me questions, ask me about my family, and we're going to have a much higher relationship and deeper relationship than over the phone or over email. So talking a little bit about how the video mortgage advisor works. So going back to Ted's, you click on the call to action, you saw this video piece here. Really, there's a couple of different ways. It can be on the mortgage calculator at the end. It can be straight on your website as a widget. So you've probably seen a text pop up before. Video is very much similar. I can ask folks what type of their loan type. So I can say, are you, a first-time home buyer? Is this a jumbo? Are you trying to refinance? I can route that to the appropriate loan officers. And then right from your website, this video comes up. So there's no downloading, there's no going off to third-party tools. It's your branded competitive experience. And then the cool thing is at the end of it, a survey pops up, and I instantly give the customer a survey as well as the loan officer a survey, so I can instantly get feedback. We typically see over an 82% completion rate on that. That can be everything from, hey, are you going with us? How likely are you to recommend us? What did you think about our rates, or what did you think about our customer experience today? And then what you see over here on the right-hand side, this is the dashboard. So having come from the mortgage industry and contact center industry, we've got this dashboard here that routes based on skill, that routes the videos, whether somebody's sitting in a centralized environment, sitting in a branch, sitting at home, wherever it may be, and they see the video here. And then you've got the reporting that backs that and all the analytics from that perspective. The other thing I wanted to talk about today really is about deepening relationships with the realtor network. So a lot of mortgage companies that we work with, especially the kind of mid-sized ones, are very strong into their realtor networks. And of course, a lot of the home builders own their own mortgage companies and so forth. What if you take that video that Ted showed earlier and you put it in the hands of the realtor, and the realtor is working with their clients? They're the ones that are face-to-face. They go through the calculator. You put it in the hands of the realtor to give you competitive advantage, and let them plug in the numbers with sitting in front of the client. And knowing that, most realtors know their customers. Did they get pre-qualified already? Do they need a mortgage company? What if at the end of that calculator and they say, yep, that sounds like a monthly payment, or no, we may not be able to afford that. Let's go revise and see what it looks at $350,000. And then what if sitting there in that house that they're looking at, or sitting in that real estate office, they can then hit that button and get that video pre-qual right there. No giving the realtor gives you the card of the mortgage guy to call, and you go call him at 8 o'clock at night, you hear back a few days later. If you're with that real estate agent, you're able to talk to that loan officer right then, get all the information you need for the pre-qual, have it emailed over, and let them attach it with the house. That realtor by default is going to give you more business. Why? It's a higher level of service. They look great in front of their clients. And at the end of the day, they need that pre-qual because they want to put that offer in. And it's all about, I want it now, I want it instant, and the ability to do it quick. So the ability to, think outside the box, think about how you're getting your loans today, where's your traffic coming from, and how to really utilize that in the best manner. So I'm actually going to show here just some industry case studies, not personal ones, just because the UK has been doing this for the last couple of years and has some really great information from an industry standpoint that I wanted to share today. So number one, Nationwide Financial, really looking at increasing the customer experience. So we see very similar to these numbers here in the US, increasing the CSAT scores by 2/3, increasing NPS by 2 times. And they were able to increase their mortgage business by 75% and reduce the cost per sale, cost per loan by 2/3. Same thing with Lloyds Bank, very similar. This scenario, if you read the article on this one, which is a great read, this one's really around being in rural areas and not having people have to drive into branch locations, which we do a lot on the video banking side of, expanding the footprint without having to expand the brick and mortar. So they've seen that 1/3 of their phone appointments have been replaced by video chat of folks from that perspective. There's a lot of industry data on reducing travel time and how that equates to customer experience from that standpoint. And then the last one is Ulster Bank of Ireland. And this is really, again, reducing the time. So if you look in general, a video chat, typically you're going to see a significantly less talk time than having to talk over the phone. And so typically we'll see that it'll be 60% of that time from a video standpoint, 50 to 70% typically is the average. And the good thing about that is, you know, if I'm videoing with somebody and they're in the house, I may even be able to see it. I'll have in front of me, you know, questions that I'll be able to read, mannerisms, buying signs. If I go over a payment amount and I see them cringe, you know, I can see things through the video that I can't see over the phone. So a couple areas of opportunity when it all boils down. Number one, you know, mortgages, the reason that the banks and the credit unions are losing market share to the online lenders is, you know, reach and technology. They can move a lot faster and they don't have to have brick and mortar, so they can spend that money on marketing. So if you look back at some of the numbers, you know, the banks have lost, you know, 100% market share, or excuse me, the online guys have grown 100% and the banks have lost 52% market share, literally just in the last 12 to 18 months. The competitive advantage of having video, you're going to close 4 to 5x conversion rate on the loans. You're going to build relationships. You're going to get more referral business. You're going to get more realtors referring business because of the experience standpoint. Really expanding your local network. So whether it's title company, whether it's realtor, putting it in their hands, putting the calculator, putting the video call to action in their hands will drive more business from that perspective. And then don't just think about it from purely the marketing standpoint. You want to incorporate this throughout the process. So if I'm talking to a home buyer today and I'm the loan officer and I'm doing the pre-qual, when I need to talk to them in a week and I send them a list of 25 items and they're going to freak out, I'm going to want to talk to them via video again and ease the pain, explain it to them. If they make an offer, a millennial makes an offer, or Gen Z or whoever it may be, and I know they're a first-time home buyer and they lose that house, I'm going to want to get on the phone, on video with them and tell them that this is normal, that here's what we're going to do on our side. You know, I just need to change these few things and handhold them through that process. Because I don't want to spend, as a loan officer, having owned a mortgage company, you spend all this time working on somebody and then they fall out in the process and it's beyond your control. But if you can handhold and create that high touch service with them throughout the process, even with their processors, it'll assure you that you're not going to have retention issues and dropout issues from that standpoint. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jeff. I know we've got some questions, and if you have additional questions or you haven't submitted questions, you can submit them in the Q&A portion, and Ted or I will answer those for you. Back to you, Jeff.
Great. Thanks, Carrie. We have a question here in terms of looking at, and pardon me, I'm just reading this for the first time. A quick summary of how IndiVideo and OneTouch complement each other would be helpful to understand. Maybe Carrie will start with you, and then we can maybe Ted chime in as well.
Yeah, so from a calculator standpoint, if, you know, at the end of that video where you know, there's a call to action, what you don't want to do is have this amazing video, you know, that Blue Rush does, and then follow it up by, you know, give us your email address and we'll get back to you, or call this 1-800 number. Now that may work, and that, you know, is better than nothing, right? But if you really want to have, you know, the bells of the video and follow it up, you know, giving the customer, the potential customer, the option to video with a mortgage advisor and literally walk them through the process. And there's going to be people that aren't going to want a video. It's not, you know, one size fits all, but giving the option to have that high touch experience from start to finish is a great way to competitive advantage, as well as close more loans.
I would add on there. I was actually at a top 50 bank this morning at a meeting, and one of the things they talked about was the consistency of the customer experience throughout the buyer journey. If you are offering an incredible video experience with a interactive personalized video, offering an incredible video experience with your customer care center is just an extension of that that customer journey. They actually saw that. They actually brought that up and said that to me, and I would wholeheartedly support that. You want the consistent journey. So if you're starting with video, finish with video.
Great.
Exactly.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Carrie. This looks like this next question is for you for One Touch, a technical question. What is involved in adding video mortgage advisors to the website or to our website? And second part, does it take a lot of IT involvement or integration to make that happen?
Gotcha. Yeah, so back on the screen that I was showing earlier of adding what we call our web widget, mobile is a little bit different, but we offer it in a couple of different ways. To add that web widget on your website, you can add it on any page of your website. So a lot of banks, credit unions and so forth just want it on their mortgage page or their business banking page or whatever. It's literally a couple of lines of code, about 3 to 5 minutes to put on your site, and it's fully branded. So, we're more behind the scenes and it looks like the bank or the mortgage company's technology. Very similar with the video. And then if you have a mobile app, you can put our SDK in there. But to add it on your website is, depending upon how good of a typer you are, it could be 5, it could be 7 minutes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carrie. Next question looks like for Blue Rush. Ted, it looks like you, as you talked about personally identifiable information in your presentation, the question here, how can you put PII in the video itself?
That's a good question. The PII, personally identifiable information, is driven by the data privacy laws, and these laws have real teeth. So we don't want to put any customer data at risk at any point in time. So what we figured out was that we can send PII in an individual by installing that individual on the bank's behind the bank's firewalls. So, for example, if you want to send, if you're trying to upsell a customer from one mortgage to another or renew them, they can, when they log into their online banking experience, you can feed them an individual that pulls the data from the bank's CRM, from the from interaction with the customer, wherever you want to pull it from, and then feed it to that customer. But because it's sitting behind the bank's firewall, it's got the same laws around the same security around the data. So that being able to feed that information is pretty important. We're actually even sending credit scores within these individuals, and there's not much more personally identifiable information than a credit score.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ted. Carrie, this next question is for you. Carrie, you talked about the use of the application with loan officers. The question is, what do our loan officers need to have to be a video mortgage advisor? What's involved? Software, websites, et cetera. What's involved there, Carrie?
Yeah, good question. So not a lot. The good news is, our technology, is hosted. So they just need to have access to a browser with Google or Chrome. They would access our technology through a secured URL, and then they just need to have a webcam. So it can be currently whatever webcam they have on their laptop or desktop, or we have clients that grab a $12 USB webcam off of Amazon. They're so cheap and high quality these days, and that's it. And so the loan officer can be in a centralized environment. They can be sitting in a branch. They can be work from home. Really doesn't matter. I mean, as long as they have access to an internet, they're pretty good to go to, take video calls from the queue.
Perfect. Thank you. Ted, it looks like this next question is for you with regards to the type of videos Do the videos have to be calculators? Can they be for something else that doesn't necessarily involve math?
No, they do not have to be from calculators. It's just one of the use cases that we've used a lot. One of the other situations is when you are onboarding a new customer. If you're explaining what documents you need for the mortgage process, or if you are just welcoming them to your company as a customer, or you're trying to upsell them. None of those would require math. They're just simply another form of, in those cases, we'd personalize it by information from the CRM. But yeah, those are other interesting use cases we can use IndiVideo for.
Great. Carrie, it looks like we've got our last one-touch question that's come in. Question with regards to demographics. Do you see any age demographics on who's using the video for pre-qualifications?
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because we used to think that it's only a younger demographic that uses it. And while the younger demographic definitely is a big user because they're FaceTiming each other, they don't even really do that many audio calls anymore. You've probably seen that with, kids or grandkids or whatever that, they just hit FaceTime or whatever it may be. They don't even try to audio call somebody. But interestingly enough, the largest percentage is kind of that over 50 demographic, which you think would be, kind of counterintuitive, but really, the over the 50 to 65-year-old demographic is very used to video because they're FaceTiming with kids and grandkids or, through work, things like that. So it's actually kind of interesting, the fact of people just want to see who's behind the company. They just want to put a face with who they're talking to. And we live in this instant and virtual world where we want everything now, but we want everything now at our fingertips, but we still want to have those relationships and build them. And so it's really across all demographics, but it's not just your 20-year-olds by any means. The 35 to 50-year-old demographic is definitely, high in the user pool.
Perfect. Thank you, Carrie. And Ted, looks like we have a final BlueRush question as well. Question with regards to IndiVideo and where it can sit. Is IndiVideo only for online? Can it be used perhaps in a branch or in an email?
Yeah, for sure. So the use case that I showed in the presentation was one that would generally sit on the website, and someone would fill in the details and then watch it. We also have done actually the other example I talked about of the case study of the Allstate moving someone from quote to fulfillment was driven by an email. So it can be sent out. In that case, we sent the IndiVideo to the customer via a link via email, and it didn't have any PII in, so that was fine. And it could it just helped them understand what to do next to actually click the transact button.
Great, thanks, Ted. Well, at this point, it looks like we've gone through all the questions that are submitted. I'd like to extend a warm thank you to everyone for attending today. Just as a reminder, the recording of this webinar and other resources will be available on both of the company's respective websites within the next 2 to 3 days. That's otvvideochat.com and bluerush.com. Hope you all have a wonderful day and look forward to continuing the conversation in the future. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.